You're listening to the Breakdown Podcast, presented by Flea Flicker Highlights. Welcome to the first ever episode of the Breakdown Podcast, presented by Flea Flicker Highlights. I'm your host, Wade Rennie. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Pal Patel and Tyler Bush. We're going to be going over all of the action in the sports world heading into this weekend, as well as recapping, some things that have happened over the last couple of days. So let's get kicked off with the sport that's the latest in its season right now. Of course, the MLB playoffs going on. Tyler, what's the story over there?
Yeah, so we're right in the middle of the woods with MLB postseason. My Yankees took a hard loss to the Astros after a couple of solo shots. And the Padres-Phillies series is tied right now. So I want to get your guys' World Series predictions. Pal, what you got?
So I gotta say, I think it'll be the Phillies and the Astros in the World Series. I think that the Phillies are absolutely mashing right now, and I think that including my biases, I just think that they are the better team, and I'd like to see them play for a World Series.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot about baseball. I'm not a big baseball guy. One thing I do know is that I don't want the Yankees or the Astros to win the World Series. But despite that, I think that the Phillies come out of the NL. I don't think the Padres have enough, and I think that the Astros take care of the Yankees, and then the Astros, unfortunately, will win another World Series.
When it comes to the AL, y'all know I want the Yankees, but I don't really care who comes out on top. I mean, I'll root for my boys who like Philly and all those Philadelphia sports, but I think it's going to be Padres at Yankees because I love the energy in Slam Diego.
Yeah, it's hard to cheer against the Padres. Honestly, either one of those NL teams would be a fan favorite in the World Series for sure. It's
not that hard when the two teams you'd be playing against are the Yankees, and then the biggest sports organization cheating scandal like in history.
Yeah, I mean they still get shit on for that. But no, moving on. Looking at the weekend ahead, we have a pretty exciting college football slate, especially whenever you compare it to the NFL slate. There are a few matchups that stand out. Do you want to talk about a few of those, Tyler?
Yeah, so we got, I think the biggest one here is Syracuse at Clemson, just 2.5 hours north of us in Greenville. We got a hard-playing Cuse team that's surprising a lot, going up against number 5 Clemson. We'll see where Clemson will end up at the end of the season. They have a tough road ahead of them. We'll move on to Ole Miss at LSU, Texas at Oklahoma State, UCLA at Oregon. Those are some AP matchups. Wade, do you have any comments regarding this week in college football?
Yeah, I think that the Clemson Syracuse game is an interesting one. I don't think that a lot of people are giving Syracuse a shot, and whether or not they're right to do so, we'll see. Syracuse hasn't won a lot of games like impressively. The one matchup that really stands out to me is UCLA Oregon, because UCLA, for the first time in a while, seem like they have a very good football team. The Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he's playing out of his mind at quarterback. He's an electric playmaker, and this is a real measuring stick game for UCLA to kind of decide if we're finally going to get a national title contender out of the Pac-12. It's been a pretty long time.
It'll be Chip Kelly that does it, right?
It will be Chip Kelly that does it.
But no, actually, this UCLA team is very fun to watch. They play a very good offensive scheme, and they're able to put points up on the board. And it looks like they finally have enough depth to really compete with the traditional Pac-12 powerhouses. I don't know how well that'll translate during bowl season or come playoff time if they get that far or anything. But it certainly makes the Pac-12 more interesting. I mean, I remember this summer, we thought the Pac-12 was dead. I didn't expect good football coming out of this conference, especially this late into the season. But I'm excited to see that College Game Day will be out there, so it'll be a good atmosphere and everything.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I thought after this offseason with all the changes with the Big 12 and all that the Pac-12 was gonna fade, and I guess we're wrong because we got a couple teams in the top 25, few actually, and I'm surprised the Pac-12 is making a comeback at least for this season. We'll see like how that will change the future of college football and conference realignment. I'm sure we all know it'll still be the SEC and the Big 12, but
I mean, this is
Big
down.
Big 10.
No, the Big 12's okay this year, but it's a really down year for the Big Ten, I think, and that opens up some space where you've got teams that are maybe able to compete for a college football playoff spot that some of the Big Ten teams would maybe be vying for. Like your Wisconsins that are terrible this year, but I think that in the SEC, the Ole Miss LSU game is gonna have a big impact on who comes out of the West. I think if that Ole Miss team gets rolling, they're very, very dangerous. They're the wild card of the SEC West.
I love Lane Kiffin. I love the high-powered offense at Ole Miss every single year. Speaking of college football, our South Carolina Gamecocks are playing Texas A&M. So, what do we like?
Well, I don't want to keep just spewing my biases out there, but I'd love to see a South Carolina win. I'm not sure where the health is with their quarterback. We saw that South Carolina can take advantage of an inexperienced quarterback and, eke out a win like they did in Lexington. And, I mean, that was a great win for this team in this season, but that's a great win for Beamer and the program as well. That's a top 15 team. You go to their place and beat them. Granted, they didn't have their some people have him as the number one quarterback coming off the board.
I don't see it in Miles. I think he'll be.
I see it in him physically. He definitely has that. I mean, that's what kids said about Justin Herbert. They said that he wasn't ready but sometimes those NFL scouts know what they're looking at, and if they think that he has a talent and he can play, I don't see why, there's any limit. There's any limit to what Will Levis can achieve. I think that he has all the tools and he's played smart. I don't know what else you need. You know what I mean?
I agree. This Kentucky team, basketball school, they're playing some pretty good football within the past couple of years. South Carolina had a very ugly loss last year, but they were able to get the job done this year. Yeah.
So how do you think Shane Beamer kind of keeps that momentum going into this weekend?
I think Beamer. Same thing. If we reflect on last year, the team got stronger as the season went on.
Yeah.
They were able to finish with a UNC Chapel Hill bowl game and
the Mayo Bowl.
The Mayo Bowl, yeah, a little mayo on Beamer's head.
Dude, I buy Duke's Mayo now because of that bowl game. And it's got twang. It really does.
It does. We're not sponsored by Duke's Mayo yet, but that is something that we would be open to.
We're looking for Duke's Mayo sponsorship.
Yeah, Tyler will dump a thing of mayo on his head if we get that sponsorship. I mean, it doesn't take much, Duke's Mayo. Reach out. But
going back to Beamer.
Seriously. But this A&M team they've had our number. I mean, there's no way. I mean, this is as embarrassing as you can get in a rivalry. This is just. I mean, we haven't beat them. I mean, we haven't beat them. They haven't. It's not like they've been in Alabama or they've been, even in LSU or Auburn where they've been at that national champion level in the past 10 years. This is an A&M team that has struggled against its other traditional SEC opponents, and they are able to somehow literally treat us like an FCS game. Like they come, we go there, they come here, they smoke us every time. It doesn't matter. So we'll see if that trend changes. What do you think it takes to make that happen?
I think that this game is going to be a real test of kind of South Carolina's resolve coming after a big win. Yeah, you had the bye week, but there's still kind of maybe that hangover after a huge upset victory on the road. But I think that this game will really see the progress or lack of progress that Beamer's made with this program. I think a really good performance here can cement South Carolina as a football program that is now on the up and up finally.
Yeah,
after
our only losses this year are Arkansas, Georgia. That's it. So it's not the end of the year. It's not the end of the year. Things change, and And the perception around this team is certainly not the way it was a month and a half ago.
Yeah,
So
I would say it's still a real like sneaky 4-2. Like I don't like.
yeah, I mean there were some polls that had us just outside the top. I don't think we belong up there per se with the way that the team has gotten it done. But again, if you just look at that record, you're a 4-2 SEC team. Your losses come to teams that were preseason top 10. Georgia is top 3 right now, top 2, top 1, whatever you want to argue. Those aren't bad losses. You beat A&M, you keep it going. You beat Mizzou, you keep it going. You beat Vandy, and
all of a sudden you're 7-2.
yeah, you're sitting there, and that matchup against Tennessee is looking tasty. I mean, I'm not no upset watch or anything. Tennessee could come out and just smoke us. It could be 63-3 for all I know right now. But I mean, just as a fan, it's fun to get excited about things like this again, and I hope that there's a good crowd out there, and I hope we get rocking and we see some good old college football, magic. College football magic.
Yeah, South Carolina is definitely running the ball better than they were at the beginning of the season. That's huge when you want to open up the offense.
Yeah.
If South Carolina can get rolling, they can be a serious threat down the road. But this game comes first. They need to beat A&M. A&M's had their number.
Yeah.
On to the NBA. Very exciting couple days of first days of the basketball season. So what we first want to highlight is the 22-point comeback versus the Mavs that the Suns pulled off. They gained revenge for
they were down
the
by
playoffs. And who do you think has a better chance of making the finals this year, the Mavs or the Suns?
I think it's the Suns. I'd like the Mavs team. I know that people are pretty split on Christian Wood, like whether he's a good player or not. I think he is. I think that he does have defensive concerns, but the Mavs really needed a secondary scorer, and I think he fits in that role. This is a bad loss, though. It's a bad loss, and one thing I thought was really interesting: Chris Paul on the bench in crunch time did not play in the final 5 or so minutes of the game. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. He's getting a little older.
It could just be load management. It could just be, but it's concerning not seeing him play whenever it got close and down to the nitty-gritty. But teams are trying more stuff with all this, concern around injuries and the 82-game season has a toll. But I mean, Kawhi's gonna start by coming off the bench is what the word is out of LA.
Wow.
So I don't think that the two of them are not playing for the same reasons, but I will say I don't think that we need to just, kind of focus on that and worry too much because Chris Paul is essential to what this Suns team does. I don't know who's going to come out of the West. I mean, you asked me who has the better chance of making it to the finals between these two teams. Honestly, it depends on so much because both of these teams are streaky. Both of these teams are relying on young stars that haven't delivered yet. They haven't, combined how many MVPs are on those two teams. I just think that there's levels to it, and I think that before you even start talking about either one of these teams in the finals, we have to talk about if either of these teams even have a chance of being the Warriors in the series.
I was gonna say I still have the Warriors out of the West.
And I think that the regular season, the past few years, we've seen it more and more. It's just not a sprint. It almost doesn't matter what you do in the regular season if you are a deep enough team that knows how to play well together. And that's just what the Warriors keep showing us year after year. And it took the Bucks a certain. It took them they had to really build that character. They had to go through some tough times in Milwaukee to get to that finals and get that ring. And I don't think that the Suns or Mavs have, paid enough dues or I just don't think they're there.
Before we get out of the West, I want to talk about the Lakers and the problems that they have going on. As we all know, last year, the Lakers' big problem was three-point shooting. You trot out a lineup where the three best players are Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James. That's not like a great floor spreading lineup.
Yeah.
And then the Lakers, they took that feedback, that they learned from last season, and then they came out in free agency and did absolutely fucking nothing about it, signed 0 shooters. They're still bad. What do you guys think is going to happen in LA?
What do you think is going to happen? They're not going to win very many basketball games. This is going to happen. I for one, am a huge Russell Westbrook fan. I'm not saying that, to show that I support him through all this. I'm talking. I am a Russell Westbrook fan. Is in the fact that man is a huge part of the reason why I follow the NBA so much and why I like basketball so much. I love the way he played the game in Oklahoma City. I've loved the way he's played the game since. I remember watching his MVP year. I would stay up and watch all of those West Coast, Pacific time, Mountain time games out in Oklahoma City just because I loved watching him play. I think that all these questions around Russell Westbrook are just, they're asking the wrong question. Because the questions are, how does he fit? How does he fit? None of these guys fit with each other. None of these guys fit with each other. Like, you cannot blame the problem. I just think that the team has been assembled just in an awful manner. Like, I don't know what the goal is or what the plan is. LeBron was out there yesterday during the press conference. He said, it's not like we have a bunch of lasers out there. Like, everyone knows they can't shoot. This is a 3-point, this is a 3-point shooting league now, and you're trying to tell me that you have plans to win it without doing that. Good luck, because I just don't see it happening.
I totally agree. I love LeBron, but this team is not good enough. You signed Pat Beverly and Lonnie Walker in the offseason. Those are not bad.
I didn't know Lonnie Walker was in the NBA until I saw him get, shook by Steph on
I
was like, that's Lonnie Walker?
He was coming off the bench for the Spurs last year. They finished 12th in the West? Something like that.
The Spurs are the worst team right now, it looks like.
I know.
He can stay on their roster.
But now he's starting for this Lakers team that supposedly has championship expectations.
Playing 30 minutes for this Lakers team. I don't understand it. I think that this will be just an interesting story to watch. What do you take away from the situation in LA, Tyler?
No, the bench is very bad. It's good. Unless GM LeBron can make some trades here and there, I don't see this roster.
You don't have assets
going
to trade.
Anywhere. No, that's the
you
problem.
You had Kuz, you had Caruso, you had these younger guys that
but they got Russell
leverage.
Westbrook with that.
But I'm telling you, bro, the problem's not with you. Put Russell Westbrook back on that Wizards team and tell me how good that Wizards team is. Like, I don't think that the Lakers know what they want to put out on the court.
I think there's a management problem. They need to clear the air with who's in charge and all that. It just seems like LeBron is tagging his 37-year-old teammates from years back from his old teams, just trying to get these veterans, but these veterans don't really seem good enough.
That deleted tweet. Don't talk about me and my dogs when we're up.
So staying in the West, we'll go on to the Pelicans. Zion,
the most exciting team in the NBA.
Pretty good performance from Zion Williamson. KD had some compliments for him after the game. Do we need to see more out of Zion, or is this expected?
I think that this Pelicans team doesn't need more out of Zion. It just needs Zion. You know what I mean? I think that
great point.
Zion has been surprisingly consistent in the games that he has played. So obviously his availability has been a question, but when he's out on the court, why he was drafted and why that he got that contract over the summer, and you understand why there's so much hype around this guy, because he has a certain way of playing the game that we don't know if anyone right now can stop it. I haven't seen anyone, be able to say we've been able to shut down Zion. I feel like he goes out there and he scores 25 on anybody right now. The way this Pelicans team is constructed, it's incredible what David Griffin, right? David Griffin, the GM, what he's done. He has literally put together a team of my career players. These guys can shoot the ball. They play they play a great team style of play. They have some young athletic wings, and they're good. They're good on both sides of the ball. This Pelicans team is fun.
I've always been an absolutely massive Zion guy. And I think that when he came into the league initially and was able to play those first few games, he's the rare prospect who can come in and dominate athletically in the NBA right away. I mean, he like when you think about what he was doing, he's still only 22.
Yeah.
But like when he came into the NBA, 18, 19 years old, and like just right away in summer league, he was just bitching, grown men, like as like an 18-year-old. Like we haven't seen a prospect that was as like physically developed as him since LeBron. And so, like, if he can stay healthy, which is a big if, because when you've got, like, 280 pounds jumping 65 inches into the air, like, there's going to be some injuries happening. That's just unavoidable. But, I mean, he's just so fun to watch, man. There's really no one like him
That
in the
Pelicans
league.
team is fun to watch. Brandon Ingram has been an exceptional player since he's gone to New Orleans. CJ McCollum has had a great stint in New Orleans so far. CJ McCollum's arrival single-handedly got them into the playoffs. That team was flailing.
Yeah, speaking of playoffs, I thought that series last year, what they were able to do to the Suns.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That Pelicans
That's team
team
ball.
towards the end of that season, down the stretch, they turned it on. And now you add Zion to that, and it's exciting. It's exciting. This is a more exciting time for New Orleans basketball than when it was seeing Anthony Davis, after he had gotten picked with the lottery, or during those Boogie Cousins AD playoff days, or during those, they had the old Chris Paul,
Yeah.
Eric Gordon days back in New Orleans. So New Orleans has had just they've had a few moments in their history where it's like they're right there on the cusp of achieving that, success, because they are a small market team. The only way they stay relevant is by playing good basketball and winning, and they haven't been able to do very much of that. So I just think that this is probably their best chance in a while to really make something happen and put the city on the map.
Absolutely loving this Pelicans team. A lot of young players, got a young talent.
Yeah.
Speaking of young players and young talent, Paolo Banchero posts the first 25-5 in his debut since LeBron James. This is pretty impressive. What do you guys think?
I liked Banchero coming out of Duke. I thought that he was the number one pick over Chet. Obviously, we're gonna have to wait at least a season to see if that is the case.
Chet, Rookie of the Year next year.
He's gonna have.
I'm playing.
He's gonna have Victor Wembanyama wearing that Donovan Mitchell sweatshirt with the rookie definition on it. But I really like Banchero's game, and I think he's another guy where, he's not as dominant physically as Zion, but he's still, he's a big dude. Like he can compete physically right away, and I think that if his shooting can stick around and he can knock down some threes, he'll be a very dangerous player for this Magic team, which also is a very fun team. Like while we're talking about that,
he's
out
some good guys.
like R.J. Hampton. I know I loved watching him when he was in high school. Jalen Suggs needs to return from injury, but another young, exciting guard.
Jalen Suggs was good when he was playing last year. Yeah,
Cole Anthony too.
Cole Anthony has been developing. He had some moments last year. I remember those game winners, and I just felt
He's got swag.
That's what I was gonna say. That team kind of has that life and that swagger back. Yeah. I don't know back. I don't know if they've ever had it, but certainly these young guys are creating it. And I think it's great to see. I don't think we expected the Magic to really, compete with every team every night and everything. But this would be a pretty good development for them if they can just find a way to help these guys develop by just turning over the reins and giving them this season to just play with each other, figure it out, and then kind of evaluate from there.
Yeah, I agree. Before we get too far removed from the Pelicans, I know we just talked about Banchero, the Pelicans game. What do we think of the Nets?
We got to talk about that. If we're gonna praise the Pelicans, we got to talk about, well, was it just the Nets haven't figured it out yet? Ben Simmons.
Boy,
he took 2 shots. He made 2 shots, took 3 shots.
Ben Simmons Ben Simmons, by the way, 4, 5, and 5, fouled out in 23 minutes.
Fouled out in 23 minutes. Only took 3 shots in 23 minutes. I looked at his box score yesterday, and I knew he didn't, score very much. I knew he didn't affect the game very much. But the fact that he only took 3 shots in 23 minutes is a level of, it doesn't make sense. I am a Sixers fan. I was complaining about the same things before. I have always been a Ben Simmons fan. I grew up an LSU fan. I remember cheering for him whenever he went to LSU. And I was so excited when he was drafted to my favorite basketball team. And I will always be a Ben Simmons fan. I like the way he plays. He's fun to watch. He's creative. He is actually, in my opinion, the best defender in the league. I would rather have him, if I'm put into pick one guy to stop anyone. Anyone. You know what I mean? I feel like he is who you want. He has all the athletic gifts to really dominate this game, and yet a change of scenery hasn't quite helped him figure it out. I don't know. It's one game, so I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. But
just looking at the stats, the Pelicans out-rebounded the Nets 61-39.
Wow.
So that, I think, will be a big talking point. I mean, when you look at the Nets roster, they are lacking on good physical big play. They've got Nick Claxton.
Claxton's a beast.
But after him, their backup center, backup big. They've got Markieff Sharp. Markieff Morris played 3 minutes.
Yeah, but I think
Kessler Edwards.
I think Markieff Morris will see more time as this year goes on. They're gonna miss that role that Blake Griffin played. I think that Blake Griffin, he kind of went underdetected on that team, but he was a glue, and especially in those crunch moments in the playoffs, they relied on him to jumpstart that offense. And you wouldn't expect that you need someone to jumpstart an offense when you have KD and Kyrie on your team, but that was the case. And so we'll see how much they miss that. But it's interesting to know the Nets planned for this to happen. They went into the season expecting that their crunch time clutch lineup would include Claxton, Simmons, and KD. They wanted KD to not have to feel the burden of rebounding so that he can kind of open up his game and really take over. And maybe just because, Ben Simmons wasn't playing the whole game, or it's only one game out of 82. So maybe we're just, drawing too much out of this one game, but it'll be interesting to see at least how the Nets tend to use that rotation size.
Yeah, I don't think the Nets are making the finals this year. Too much dysfunction. I mean, 4-0 last year to Boston. I mean, I love KD as a player, but there's so many other moving parts. Let's get into the NFL. We got Thursday Night Football as we're recording right now. DeAndre Hopkins is back. That will definitely help Kyler Murray. A couple key matchups. A couple divisional matchups. Bucks at Panthers. This is a get right game for Brady. Thoughts on Steve Wilkes and the direction of this Carolina organization?
I mean, I think they took a necessary step firing Matt Rule.
What do you want us to say? They're looking good. They're looking up. I mean, I just, you said that they did a good job firing Rule, and that's true. He didn't do very much in his time there, but I mean, this is a natural cycle that happens to NFL teams. We've seen it before. It doesn't work out. You blow up and you start again. I think that this Carolina team hadn't properly, retooled itself since those Cam Newton days because his exit was so haste. It was, it was rushed. It wasn't proper. And then they thought for a while that they could just plug in a good quarterback and the rest of the team would work. And then they realized that, maybe if we just stay healthy, or they just kept trying to use these short-term solutions, and now it looks like they've, realized what the situation is and have decided to take the right steps and rebuild.
Before we keep going on Carolina, Tampa Bay, I just wanted to say that the slate this week for the NFL, and I don't know if it's just because almost every team isn't very good, but this is one of the most underwhelming NFL weeks that I've seen in a pretty long time.
The highest over I saw set for this week, granted I checked this on Monday, was a 48. So if you
the Seahawks Chargers line is up to 51.
51,
So that's the highest now.
Yeah, we got one over 50, and I'd like the under on that one. Actually. if we're just talking numbers here, but yeah, this is not an exciting slate. We can't, we can sit here and try and take out some interesting storylines and pull stuff off, but I mean, looking at the rest of this slate, there are a few interesting matchups. I personally think that the Giants-Jags will end up being the game of the week, from a fan perspective. I expect touchdowns in that one. I hope that the Jags can kind of show us what they were showing us the first few weeks of the season.
Yeah, Jags actually favored in that game, which, I imagine most New York fans will read that as some form of disrespect, but I actually don't think that the Jaguars are that that bad of a team, excuse me.
Yeah.
And the Giants might be like, I don't know. I don't think that they're a 5-1 team. I think they definitely should have a winning record, but I mean, last week, Baltimore really shot themselves in the foot. There's just been some wins where, they played like the Bears. The Bears are terrible. I would know, but I think that is that's one of the most interesting lines of the week for me. Jaguars over Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I think Brian Dable's doing a great job with that Giants team. I do not see Daniel Jones making it through all the way to the playoffs with them. He's all right. Their defense is what's keeping them in games. Saquon Barkley's been an absolute beast this year.
Before we get ahead of ourselves, I just want to say the Giants' wins have been against the Titans, the Panthers, the Packers, Bears, and Ravens. I don't see any, inspiring wins.
I think the Ravens and the Packers game I think those are good wins.
They both came from behind, and the other teams have not been doing well. The other teams have not been doing well. The Ravens and Packers have both been on a downhill trajectory as this season's gone on. I think the Ravens will be able to fix that. I'm not sure about the Packers. I just think that this Giants team is hard to evaluate right now. They certainly have playmakers. No one can argue that. I don't think we can make a true judgment on Brian Dable yet. I think that he's kind of gotten lucky with the schedule that he's gotten his first year in, his first few months, and he's been able to settle in nice. And no disrespect to him, whatever he's done, it's obviously worked. They're 5-1. I haven't seen the Giants so many games above 500 in literally forever. So great job to him. Props to that whole organization. But I don't think they'll keep it up.
I think where Giants fans can take some comfort is the fact that at least a few of these games are games they absolutely 100% would have lost in years past. And so that's always a good sign, of a winning culture kind of starting to form is, winning these close games. So they're doing that. I'm not totally convinced on them, but hey, they might prove me wrong.
That's right.
So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, so staying in the NFC East, Dak Prescott is back. Dak Attack is back. Are the Cowboys better off with Dak? Cooper Rush was 4-1 with them, so...
I thought we weren't asking stupid questions.
No, dude, I've seen
the entire internet is Dak should not play. I'm just saying, that's 60% of what's out there.
Then, you know what? That doesn't
People are
surprise me.
stupid.
That doesn't surprise me because
People
I
are
would say
stupid.
more than 60% of people are fucking dumb. If you think, listen. This is no disrespect to Cooper Rush. He came in and he did absolutely 100% all you need your backup quarterback to do, which is keep your team in football games, not make stupid mistakes, and maybe pull out a few wins. And he did that beautifully. But if you think that Cooper Rush should start over a healthy Dak Prescott, you just need to watch him play. That's the only advice I can give you. That is the dumbest thing to have Cooper Rush start over Dak Prescott if Dak Prescott is 100% ready to go.
Yeah, before the Eagles fan talks, I think Dak Prescott's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. You saw they had one of the top offenses in the league last year when they made the playoffs until that little slip up at the end of the Niners game. I think this Cowboys team, they already have a great defense. They have receivers who are more than capable. CeeDee Lamb is an absolute stud. When you have Zeke and Pollard, that committee right there, that helps a shit ton as well. I think this Cowboys team can pull off the NFC East first place race. I don't really know. I'm not too sure on how consistent Dak can stay, but
The better team. I mean, the better team top to bottom. Roster. Looking at the roster, looking at the coaching staff, looking at everything is objectively the Eagles. I understand that this is so biased coming out of my mouth, but literally the only undefeated team right now. They haven't put a foot wrong. Can't blame them. Go Birds. They're gonna win the division, I think. But with all that being said, I just now did say a bunch of good things about the Giants, and I'll do that about the Cowboys too. I think that it's impressive what they did without Dak. They are gonna obviously get better when Dak comes back. I personally would say though, I hope that Dak does come back this week because I think the Lions are gonna win. I think that having Swift back, coming off after that bye week, this Lions team can score. You know what I mean? And I think that the last thing that the Cowboys need is a sluggish offense, which is what we've seen out of them. With Dak or without Dak, it's been a sluggish offense this year. So we'll see how that game goes. I just don't understand the whole rush versus. I think it's stupid. One of them's a proven NFL starter. The other one is a backup who's done a great job. And not discrediting Rush against getting a job in the future or something, but I don't think he's shown enough through this season and last, because he did play last season. I just don't think he's shown enough to really make teams want to go out, take a leap of faith, and get him and ask him to start. He's just not there. If Heineke isn't there, then he's definitely not there. I thought Heineke I think he's a much more complete quarterback, and he didn't get a shot to start. So
Don't worry, Bears will trade for Cooper Rush and give him like $25 million, like they did with two other career backup quarterbacks for some reason
Nick
in the
Foles won a
last
Super Bowl, and Cooper Rush literally won 4 games, and come on, man, there's levels to it.
So you were talking about Taylor Heineke, and Ron Rivera has made the switch. He's going with, actually Carson Wentz is dealing with an injury.
There it is.
Yes.
He's getting that surgery done.
Mhm.
Carson Wentz is the starting quarterback of that team, sadly. But yeah,
But Taylor Heineke is going to look like
Yeah.
the starter in their game.
he'll get his shot. Hopefully, he can make some plays like he did with his legs and just keep the Commanders in the game, because I mean, Lord knows all they need is literally a sign of life. I don't know what that fan base is feeling. I would be sad if the 3 teams that I've been, arch nemesis with for the past 100 years, if all of them had 4 wins and you're sitting there, with a quarterback that has literally just been, removed from 2 teams in back-to-back years, he's your starting quarterback. You have a relatively exciting wide receiver core, and you have some exciting pieces on defense. But apart from that, where are the fundamental basis of this football team? They're weak.
I'd like to argue that point. I think their defense
I was gonna
is
say their offensive line is
more
weak.
than proven. Their O-line, yes. Their O-line
That's what I was gonna say.
is very bad.
They can't establish the offense. That defense has been great.
I do think the Commanders can rally a couple wins. I mean, it's looking tough right now with the Cowboys and Giants and Eagles all at the top of that division.
All right, getting into our last segment here. I'd like to introduce the Salty Nut Lock of the Week. Each one of us will go around and give you guys a lock from any one of the matchups that we may or may not have talked about coming up this weekend. Tyler, would you like to get us started?
I'm riding the Falcons against the spread once again.
Let's
They're
go.
Plus 6.5 against
America's
the
team.
Bengals.
Yeah.
America's team. Marcus Mariota, he's playing pretty well, whether he's passing it or rushing it. I think this Falcons team is very underrated. All their games have been super close. Obviously, if they're hitting all their spreads.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your lock of the week?
I would have to say Kansas. They're 9.5 dogs to Baylor. I just think there's too much excitement around this Kansas team right now to lose. Bean looks good to me, bro. I think he could roll. I mean, we know Daniels could roll. This team is set. Even with that quarterback question, I think that this Kansas team just has too much hype around it to lose. or to not cover, because that's all I need them to do. But
Yeah, I'll change it up. I'll do a player prop. We'll take it back home for South Carolina. I like Marshawn Lloyd over 100 rushing yards. South Carolina beats Texas A&M on Saturday night in Williams-Brice.
Wade giving you guys 2 locks. 2 locks. Take him to the bank. You can put this 4-leg parlay. This thing's hitting. But yeah, thank you guys for making it to the end of this and listening. I hope you guys have fun watching some good college football and some really, really bad NFL football. We'll see if Red Zone even has like touchdowns tomorrow. I think a lot of this time we'll spend just looking at the scoreboards.
Yeah, so that does it for the first ever episode of the Breakdown Podcast presented by Flea Flicker Highlights. We'll see you guys all on Tuesday for our NFL Breakdown episode. We'll go over all the action from the previous week and, hop into some Thursday Night Football previews. So we'll see you then.